Hello, and welcome. It is, of course, the time of the tabletop RPG, which we will begin very shortly. Hello, and welcome. We return once more to Solo Top Tabletop RPG Friday, Sunday, some day, whatever date it says in the corner there, in which we roll dice. So it has, of course, been a while. A not small amount of time, but we return once more. So the plan is, as it has been a while, we will go slow and get back into this whole dice rolling. Of course, we've never stopped rolling dice here, but, I mean, like, of course, it's been a while since we've run this, and I haven't had time to check my notes, and I haven't run a solo bot in a while that's not purely nation testing. So, let us do this. I think it was a month back we last did this. It has been a while, so my apologies for the delay in this episode arriving. But we should have everything we need. Well, other than remembering. So, let's start with the basics. Like I said, we're going to take this slow. The basics being, we're not going to explain how this all works. We've done that a million times. I mean, just going over the things, opening the files, and all that. We'll take it slow. But of course, with my rambling. And as always, if there are any questions about how things work, feel free to ask. Just because I say we're not going to go over them, it just means I'm not necessarily going to explain them myself as we go over it, unless I'm asked. But then I will, gladly. As I tell all my players, every single time, if you have a question about anything, feel free to ask. I mean, of course, not everything, but most things. I mean, obviously, I have a battle, a constant battle. That battle is, I have rules I follow in Galactic Requiem, such as if the information is not easily available on the datanet, the internet of space, then I will not give you the information unless you can reasonably acquire that information or find a check, Like, if you were to ask me, name the eldritch entities in this area of space, I'm going to be like, no, you're going to have to make a roll in game for that, But any question that's easily available on the datanet, of course. Or any question that I'm allowed to answer as an Imperial Lord, of course. Not all that information's available on the datanet, but, as I'm as I have that information and I can willingly give that information as long as it's not against Imperial code, then I will. But that's not what we're here for. Today's not World Building Wednesday or Lore Video Day. Today is Dice Rolling Day, in which we will actually roll the dice. Like I said, we were going to go slow. But who could have guessed exactly how slow at this glacial pace we're at a start? So, first things first, let me get reacquainted with our character. There we are. Our character is, of course, the mercenary, Juliana Aldis, currently level 6, going to level 7, only 120 or so XP away, 119 XP away technically, but you know. A caster? Well, a low tier caster. Specifically tier 2? That would be listed. Sorry, I'm a bit zoomed out on this sheet. There we go. That should be listed under additional. No, really? It's sometimes listed there. Oh, nope, it is. It is. Caster tier 2. Int-based psionic. That means something to someone. It means something to, like, 5 people in existence. Caster being the word for a person who casts, because, I mean, not everyone who casts is a mage, so, you know, casters. Tier 2, because, well, there are different tiers from 0 to 4. Int-based, because their casting stats intelligence. And psionic, because they're a psionic type caster. Actually, with no specialization. That could get even more confusing. Not What I mean is, like, there could be more things tacked on at the end. For instance, we could have subclass, like specifically a pyromancer, in which case, depending on how well they specialize, they might only do fire-based magic, which would give them a boost in the power, the amount of magic points they have. I say magic points, they're energy points, of course. But basically, there are modifiers that could apply for casters, but they are rare. Everywhere except up north. Anyway, this is what I'm talking about. Very slow start. We're rambling about things that aren't even relevant. Well, only loosely relevant because our character is a caster. A tier 2, by the way, if you didn't know, basically just means that it's real hard to explain in in-world terms. In in-world terms, it means she hasn't dedicated her life to casting, and she is a terrible caster. Not as bad as a tier 0 or tier 1, but she's not like a good caster. Tier 3, in mechanical terms, is somebody who has the caster class and a second class. A tier 4 caster is somebody who only specs into the caster class. They have more energy points and higher available spells and all that. However, technically, the magic system is still in work, loosely. Like, there are certain things that need clarification, but that's just how it goes when you basically make it from scratch, sort of. So, yeah, where to go from there? Oh yeah, I was supposed to familiarize myself with the rules. Not really the rules, I mean, the rules are simple, but it's been a long while since I did the solo thing. Honestly, first of all, figure out our character. I mean, I remember our characters, just, I don't remember every stat number. Other than that, The hard part here is going to be, honestly, the bot. We have to get back into using the GM bot. It's not a real bot, it's a series of charts. But basically, the hard part is getting it to, I mean, it's not really getting it to work. Honestly, the hard part is just finding the sections in the books because I didn't put a index in the file. I also need to add a few more files into the random gembot file because sections more so than files. I need to put data in there because there's some sections that work but like need some clarification from other sources, some things like that, just so it's all compiled in one location. That way I don't need to flip between 20 different books to do any one thing. But that's a lot of formatting and retyping things and busy work. Not really busy work, but annoying work. Dull work. That's the word I'm looking for. Dull work. But we're not here for doing the dull work. We're here for rolling the dice. I mean, let's be honest. The base, it's the complex stuff that technically is hard to do. The base of the bot is so simple. I mean, it's all the modules that make it more complex and having to check books. The base of the bot is so simple, I love it. Basically, you ask a question, you roll some dice, you see whether it says yes or no, well, you add modifiers, you see whether it says yes or no, and you get your answer. And you roll chaos with it because fun. But it's really as simple as like, okay, how likely is this? It's very likely. So +4 on the dice roll. And if it's below 11, no. If it's above 11, yes. Of course, like I said, it gets a bit more complex if you go into like NPC action and reaction. Technically, you can handle it with yes, no questions. But if you really want to get into deep and accurate NPC interaction, I mean, it's all based on interpretation. A lot of the system's based on interpretation, but if you want to be even less biased in NPC actions, there's entire charts for that that basically make it so it's, speaking of charts, my apologies, one moment. A little unprepared on my end. And by a little, I mean very. I need to actually open up our very fun book of dice numbers. There we go. Our very fun book of dice numbers. Forgive me. I know I said I wouldn't explain how things work, but then we just spent like a couple of minutes explaining how things work. I really want to check before I forget. What I want to check is, did they update the dice chart? They did not. The dice chart being the, this, how do I put it? We have this series of images that a group made. There's this series of images. Just a bunch of absolutely random images. You've seen us use them before. Basically, we roll several dice, and it'll give us one out of, well, let's see, how many are there? One out of 4,122 images. So basically, it'll give us one out of those, and we roll it twice. to get a total of like, what? 16 million? I mean, it's 16,990,884 or so um, combinations. And then, of course, we can also throw in some words. 2 words for descriptors out of a list of 100 words. There's 2 lists of 100 words, and then basically it gets into exceptionally large numbers of optional images that are then interpreted into the situation for basically infinite possibility on top of chaos, random events, answers of yes or no based on likelihood to basically emulate a GM. I mean, it doesn't alone emulate a GM, but that's where the interpretation comes in. If things make logical sense to the setting and the situation, you interpret them in a way that make logical sense, and you basically have a infinite possibility. Well, within reason, of course. Like I said, interpretation. But basically, infinite possibility. Like, I've been surprised by the things the bot has set up. One would think, even if you're interpreting it, well, you'll know what's going to happen if you interpret. No, not at all. If you're doing it right and not just interjecting your own bias into it, you only interject a little of your own bias into it, it gets great. For instance, once on one of these solo things, I was testing the system, and basically a mystery popped up, and then the bot basically said, I had an idea. Like, basically, I'm like, okay, everything that's going on adds up to this. And then the bot was like, no. And I'm like, huh? Well, then it must add up to this other thing. And then big surprise, shocking revelation, and things went a different way, but that still made absolute sense to the story. And it was just refreshing because, I mean, as the usual game master for Galactic Requiem, I usually am only, I mean, I'm not surprised by the plot. I'm often surprised by the players, but not the, you know, situation. I know the twists as the GM. I don't know what the players will do with the twists, but I know the twists, you know? I know that the secret plan is actually this. The players don't know it yet. Now it's shocking to me whether players decide to, you know, what they do with that information. Oh, they'll side with the bad guy, or they'll do something I don't expect, you know? But the plot and the underlying things going on, not really shocking to me because I know the answers. But with the bot, I can be just as surprised about the plot. So, now that we have that out there, let's have the right file open. Good. Let me open the other right file, being the actual book, be a bot book. There we go. I'm gonna have to switch between files every so often. There's a lot of files used in running Galactic Requiem. I also need to work on work. When I say work, I mean Imperial business, but also Galactic Requiem work. There's always more items to add, more things to do, more things to stat, more files to format. Always more work. But at least, so far, the hard bits are done. At least as far as I know. It's all formatting and items. I suppose there are some bits that need a little bit of like actual work. There's no system that doesn't work in game. They're just systems that, you know, I look at and I go, I could overhaul these. Anyway, Now that we've rambled uselessly for 20 minutes, let's actually play the game. Wouldn't that be interesting? Here we are. So, recap. Yulia. Oh, come on, don't freeze on me. There we go. The campaign decided you can't see it because it's in the bottom left of map tools. But I tried moving the camera right as it started auto-saving the campaign. So it lagged there for a second. Yuliana Aldous is doing a side mission. She's at a racetrack. Her objective is to intimidate a driver into forfeiting, losing the race, basically. We have it listed somewhere. Is it at the bottom? Yep. Defeat a driver. We decided it wasn't going to be at an airport because that makes less sense. I suppose we'll try and work an airport into it. There's a vendetta. The opposition is somebody who's insane. Intimidated racing driver into losing the race. The driver, however, has a vendetta with the rival, and the rival is insane. We, of course, made this map. It's a loose map. That's another thing I need that I realize, not need, but want. That being a random indoors building inside buildings. Generator for inside buildings. Words are hard. Do remember, I am being translated from Galactic Standard. So sometimes things translate wrong. Here we are. Sorry, looking at files. Yeah, random inside generator would be nice because that's always a problem. I have something that loosely does it, but it doesn't make maps, you know? And when I say generator, I don't even mean something that has to actually make a map, you know? Just a way to randomly generate the interiors of buildings, but within a way that makes sense, you know? A generator that will. I suppose there's no real way to do that. Not easily. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, not too important. We're supposed to actually be playing a game. So, we have entered the, one of the larger racing complexes. Let's see. We did get in, not really a fight, but an argument, a confrontation with an individual out there, but we moved by them. It's not like they're going to stop us. I mean, there's a chance we could get people called on us, but I mean, we're not in the gang-controlled area right now. We're actually on the surface. That would be bad. That would be very bad. We have to be careful. The city we're in, as a recap, the city we're in, we're on a world. We'll just do the whole recap. Juliana Aldous is a mercenary who used to work for another nation. She was in a project with another nation, another of the Terran nations. We're in the Terran nation territories. Basically, she dislikes the government she was a part of. She is against them. She, in fact, wants to kill them. In order to do so, it's not such a simple thing to do. As a citizen, we take galactic scale as an accurate thing around these parts. And being a lone mercenary in a world in which there are, billions upon billions of people and armies and space fleets, it's not like she can do much about that. She can do her best. So, it's not much we can do about that. But their government is on this world helping another government. This world is at war. There are two governments fighting each other. Juliana Aldous is helping the government that's against the one that she hates, the people they're assisting. Basically, Juliana Aldous wants money, so she's doing a side mission. But in short, she's in a city hiding a person from the government that she hates to try and extract them for the government she's working for. Gosh, it's things have happened. Um, so basically, in short, hmm, well, part of the city's gang controlled, and that's where we're hiding. We're no longer in the gang controlled area of the city. This city is behind enemy lines. If they realize that Juliana Aldous is a mercenary working for the government that they're against, things would get real difficult real fast. Because Galactic Requiem is a rather lethal system. It is feasible that Juliana Aldous could get shot and killed real easily. Well, debatably real easily by a team of elite troops, yes, real easily. By some random person on the street, no. Can some random person on the street kill Juliana Aldous? Theoretically, if she wasn't wearing heavy combat armor, but she is. So, you know, DR10 probably means they're going to need like armor piercing ammo. I mean, on average, a rifle round does like 11 damage, assuming they're not bursting. Burst fire, that is. So, like, it's very unlikely that it's going to be a problem for you, Aldous. Let's see. So, entering the building in a rather, I suppose, somewhat intimidating factor, given the fact that, well, like we mentioned, heavy combat armor. So, for explanation's sake, I'm sure we've gone over this before, but what haven't we gone over before? Heavy combat armor might as well be light powered armor. It is of the same tier. Light powered armor is often plated up heavy combat armor. I'm not even kidding. Light powered armor is often plated up heavy combat armor with built in servos and such. Technically, it's a bit more complex than that. Like, it's a bit more complex technically. But because technically, you can put on an exoskeleton onto your heavy combat armor, and it's still not powered armor. It's powered, but it's not powered armor. And then even if you put plating on top of that, it's still technically not powered armor. But at that point, it might as well be light powered armor. At the moment you put plating on over that exoskeleton, like, you're really getting up there. That's my point. Heavy combat armor is real close to light powered armor. Nowhere near as good, but really close. I say nowhere near, almost as good, more so. That additional health boost, though, and strength bonus, and all that. So, um, oh, we did buy a melee weapon. We got an advanced war pick. Still carrying around 4 clues. I say carrying around. It's not really carrying them, it's their concepts used with the bot for things. At some point, we're gonna have to. At some point, we're gonna have to be fair and get rid of those clues. At some point, there will come a point in which we have to say, well, those clues are no longer useful at all whatsoever. They cannot apply to anything of use. And I think we're really close to that point because I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember what they're for. So we're basically at that point in which those clues probably should be deleted. Not yet. Not yet. It's not like they actually take up inventory space, you know? They're concepts. Speaking of concepts, I'm sort of trying to figure out how complex we want to be. Not in general. We have systems with multiple layers of complexity in the game. The question is, how complex do we here, right now, in this moment, want to be? Because we have options and choices. When I say complexity, I don't even mean just going about it. I mean in rules systems complexity. We'll just go with standard for now. No need to pop open the spreadsheets. Not yet. We're not we're not doing nation management. We don't need to open the spreadsheets. I wish. I wish I was joking. Actually, I don't wish I was joking. I love the way the system works. I mean, that's not entirely true. I wish there was a way to to make it easier to display nation statistics. The spreadsheet works, but once you get into the large scale, it gets a little annoying. That's why we have a simplified variant. Anyway, gosh, I feel terrible. Not in general, about this, what's going on so far. Mostly because it's been a half an hour of solo Sunday and we've done nothing. I know I said take it slow, but earlier when I said glacial pace, I didn't, I mean, it's becoming real glacial pace. But like I said, it has been basically probably a month or so since we last did this, maybe even more. So, you know, I mean, yeah, mostly, I mean, look, we are, we can always chill. Like, that's fine. Just rambling, talking about Galactic Requiem, talking about things, especially rambling and tangents. That's what we do here. But I always feel bad when it's on one of these videos because it's, you know, it's literally labeled as solo tabletop RPG day. So I always feel a little bad because it's like, hey, look, this is the solo tabletop RPG video. This is definitely going to be solo tabletop RPG doing. And then we ramble about things and not roll dice. I suppose we should stop rambling about rambling and actually roll dice. Or, or, hear me out, we can go even deeper. We can ramble about the fact that we were rambling about rambling. No, let's let's roll dice. Um, Entering the building. Let me drink some water. Okay, so Yelena Aldis has entered the building. The first thing she sees is an area for cars. There are several areas that are closed off with actual walls and probably a few elevators, both large for the vehicles and small for people. Probably also a staircase. The way I picture this building is this section up in the top right is specifically closed off by another wall. Please, nope, that's why it was lagging. Auto saving again. Um, Top right corner is closed off by a wall. It's probably a elevator and stairs over here somewhere, somewhere along this side of the wall. There is open floor, basically here. There are several teams going about the business, several not exposition. Exposition is not the word. X starts with X, I think. Exhibit. Think, maybe. Basically, lots of ads and cars up on like display in the area. Not lots, a few specifically. And several of the people who, some of the drivers, the race drivers, going about their business. Oh, if it wasn't visible, I was saying this corner is closed off and everything to the bottom left and bottom is open for car display and work. There are probably a few fans and so forth here, specifically more upper class fans, because it's not race day, it's the day before. So, I mean, there'll probably be a few fans, mostly sponsors for the race. Probably. I mean, let's be honest. Do, do, let's be brutally honest. Do I, do I seem like the kind of person who knows anything about racing? The answer to that's probably no. So we're we're doing the best we can. Then again, this isn't your world. This isn't Elysia. So, you know, space culture. But still, even when it comes to space culture racing, I'm an Imperial Lord. I I mean I was a conscript once, but I don't I'm not really the kind of Imperial Lord who watches sports. There are, sure. There are Imperial Lords out there who have teams for sports. I'll be honest, the most involved in sports that I personally got into was arena combat. But that was a special occasion. Specifically, the Lord I served wanted to go to some fancy arena combat thing, brought a bunch of Imperial knights. it didn't go well for the competition. I mean, we've been over what Imperial Lords are. They were all combat lords, so yeah. I mean, Imperial Lords fighting Imperial Lords would be fine, but Imperial Lords fighting anything that's not Imperial Lords, it doesn't go well. Imperial Lords are, well, basically, at least the combat lords, basically top tier super soldiers. Actually, quite a few steps above super soldier, but like, so it's not like I'm gonna go out there and play some other sport in which you do like skill checks, man. Skill checks. That's why we watch Juliana Aldis. That's why we should be watching Juliana Aldis doing her thing. Trust me, it's definitely not fun when you have stats as no. Which is why, which is specifically why we follow Juliana Aldis's adventures and not mine. Because we like having fun and not rolling like 30 on a dice roll. That's probably an understatement. I'd have to check the numbers. Anyway, we're not going to check the numbers. We're going to actually finally get to the dice rolling. So, walk into the floor, all the sponsors and a few fans and so forth, talking with a few of the drivers that are here the day before the race. Juliana Aldis will open up her data pad, the one in her brain, not a physical one. Does she even own a physical one? This is a question I want an answer to. The answer is no. We don't even have a physical data pad. I mean, that's not shocking. I don't either. I mean, I could probably go grab one. I probably had one with my kit. I know Imperial kits come with physical data pads just in case. But, it's not like I've used my conscript kit in forever. But, like, brain computer works. She'll look at a brain computer, her neural data pad, and look up the target. Specifically, she has information on who she's supposed to intimidate. She will look them up on her neural data pad to see whether she can't get an image, which is going to be basically an automatic success. But I mean, like, yeah, no, that's an automatic success. Now, the thing is, not everything needs to be rolled on. Crazy, I know. You don't need your players to roll all the time. For instance, the reason we're not rolling, statistically speaking, we know the name of who we are going to try and intimidate. They are a somewhat famous race car driver. They are at this racetrack and going to race at this racetrack. We can literally just space search their name and this racetrack and get an image. It's really not something we'd have to make a dice check on. So we'll look them up, get a picture of them, and then look around the room for this individual. Now that we need to make a check for, because that's a bit more actually complex. There are two checks we actually have to make. One of them we don't know, one of them we know. The check we don't know is the person in the room? That's the check we don't have the answer to. The second one is, can we find them? That's something we do have an answer to, because that would be a dice roll for a skill check. Whether they are here is a bot roll. So let's bot roll. Okay. We will roll chaos for fun. No chaos. Now, how do we phrase this? I'm not trying to phrase it in a way that breaks like statistics or anything. I'm just like, when you do this, you're supposed to ask a question, and therefore you know whether the answer is yes or no, depending on the thing. It's really not that hard. It's just my brain not work. The question is the person we are searching for in this room? Simple question. Answer is yes. If yes, they are. Answer is no. If no, they are not. Simple enough. We, however, don't know the answer to this. So there is a system I developed, I'm pretty sure, that can let us not know the answer. However, I'd have to look up how in a book. So we're just going to know the answer and just act as if we don't know, which is fine because we're not going to meta it no matter what the answer. Like, we're not going to meta it no matter what the answer is. So, 7 and 9. 16? Yes, they are in this room. Now, a search check. I mean, let's be honest, the DC is like 5. We shouldn't have to roll, but there's a chance we could fail. Like, it is possible that we don't recognize them, but we literally have their picture up in our vision because we have a neural data pad and we know their name, we know where they are racing. Like, it's DC 5, probably. I mean, hell, it's probably lower. Like, unless we roll a 1, we probably know. And we know with an 8, which more than succeeds. If you want to know the math behind that, I didn't do the math behind that. I just know that 8 is more than 5. If you really want to be accurate, I know that we don't have a negative that's going to drop 8 down that much. Like, but if you really, really care, let's see. 1 in search, so that 8 becomes a 9. -1 for the lack of wisdom becomes an 8. Wow, it remains an 8. It still succeeds. Like, even if we didn't have a plus, it'd be a -1, making it 7. Like, there was no way. And we could have even been like we, well within the game rules, can say, we are using our neural data pad, therefore we would get a +2 on the skill check. We are using our AI, therefore we get an additional +2 on the skill check, bringing that to 16 or something like that. Like, it's really unimportant. So, we will walk around looking at the cars and people until we find our target. We're not going to map out the inside of this building because it's not worth it right this moment. We can always map on the fly if we need to, but we're not going to this time. Okay. So, we will approach the target This is why I didn't open the book, but this is why I wanted to. Um, hmm, my apologies. I'm looking for a very specific book right this second. Is this the right one? Yes, this is one of the books I'm looking for. Quickly opening the book for AI control. I say AI, but I mean like, NPCs and all that. Just so I don't accidentally put any bias in them. Of course, other than interpretation. We must, because the bot theoretically works for anything. The bot is not specifically Galactic Requiem based. It works for any tabletop RPG, technically speaking. So, like we have to interpret it in a way that fits the setting and all that. Okay. So, approaching this individual, what is their current first step of working with this? What is their current status? They are neutral. A little bit less than neutral. I say less, I mean like a little more friendly than neutral. Because they are like here technically meeting with people and all that, so they're being at least somewhat social and not just some random person. So that gives them like 1 point in positive. Here we are. Mm, we need to make a check. Let me open up our sheet. We have 0 and -1. That's going to be great. So, first things first, they are going to get an impression of us because we do stand out. We are out of place. We are not ideal. This is versus us. So we'll roll us first. 17. Probably minus an additional 2. So 15. The reason there's an additional 2. So -1, it's an 18, -1 for our social ineptitude. And then minus additional, probably more, but we'll say 2 because we're dressed in armor, in heavy combat armor, covered in guns. You know? So we'll say -2 for that, so for a total of 15. Um, Next, their roll. Well, that's I'll tell you what. Tell you what. Let's open up our sheet here. Let's just pop this open. Let's go into here. Let's scroll on down to this little thing that says 3 out of 3 action die a day. Let's drop that to 2 out of 3 action dice a day. And proc that crit failure on their part. Meaning, according to the rulebook, here we go, here we go. Let's check, let's check. This will take one moment. As I do have to find the specific section. I didn't expect this at all whatsoever. So, admittedly, I did not have this section for the what happens if you crit, succeed, or fail prepared for this. Let's see. Here we are. Critical failure. So it's actually not a critical success. It's a critical failure on their part. So we actually have to go to the other section. Here we are. Critical failure. Okay, so it turns out, as they have a critical failure, as if your opponent succeeded. Oh, so now I have to go back up. Okay. They are, well, from here, they are going to be taking a -4, and their chance of crit fail has increased by 1. And we have less of an error range with them, and they are increased. They're basically, their status of us increases by 2. Huh. Or we may spend action dice to permanently improve this NPC's disposition towards us by a grade permanently instead of only encounter based. I think we'll go with 2 grades. I mean, as much as it's possible, we could befriend this character and have them as a reoccurring person. We'll just go with the standard because I don't want to spend the extra action dice on that. I don't have them to spend. I mean, I could use the ability to, but nah. So basically, the best way to interpret that is, the best way to interpret this, somebody shows up, we try and have a presence about ourselves as we approach them, and they critically fail with a 1, and then we throw it on action dice to enact it. So there's 2 ways it could go. Way 1, which doesn't entirely make full sense. I mean, there's a way to play it, which is, A, they are intimidated. Very intimidated to a degree that they're like, yes, everything's good, we're good friends, yeah. Or they, alternatively, think Juliana Aldis is very cool. I don't know. Whatever increase, one of these two, I think the second seems more likely because technically we didn't do an intimidate check. technically we did a disposition initiator. So technically, as it's a positive base, you could do the positive in a negative connotation. It's allowed. We could say they are scared of us, but I was leaning more so into just initial regards. So honestly, it's likely that they find Dila and Aldous a bit cool. I mean, their disposition's gone up by 2, so let's see. What's that actually put them at? Uh, half a second while I open the book. Now, normally this wouldn't happen. I mean, the likelihood of them rolling a 1 and us rolling like a 18. I mean, it's possible. It's just, even all this isn't known for her social nature. Here we are, waiting for the book to load. Here we are. It says here, friendly. So their disposition is immediately friendly. You know what? Never mind. I had an idea, and it's not going to work. The rule system had a modifier that we added because reasons. Reasons I can easily get into. It's not like we can't. It's just, should I? We can't do a special ability because our charisma is -1. So I thought, basically, out of all your stats, out of all of your stats, which one is terrible? Well, let's see. Strength is good. It's a good stat. It's midline. It's not bad. Strength is your melee to hit and your melee damage and your ability to lift things, right? It does stuff like that. Dexterity, your ability to hit at range, your ability to, and also strength has skills like acrobatics, athletics, you know. Dexterity also has skills, acrobatics, athletics, operating things with dexterity. Also, your ability to hit in ranged and your AC, right? Constitution, your health, your fort save. Also, Dex is your reflex save. Your fort save, your ability to resist poisons, your health, useful. And your massive damage threshold. Intelligence, your skill points, very useful. A lot of skills also use intelligence. Wisdom, your sanity and skills. And will save for wisdom, you know? Charisma. Um, some skills when talking to people. But what modifiers though? Like, sure, it's just, I mean, some skills when talking to people. I mean, don't get me wrong. Talking to people is very useful. It is a key aspect of Galactic Requiem. But comparatively, everything else at least has something it does in addition. There's reasons to take it. Charisma, yeah, talking to people, super, super useful. But, like, it's just a skill bonus. So often I find a few people, on occasion, you'll be like, dump stat charisma. Unless you're doing a very specific, like, leadership build, and you're going some things that want to lead troops or stuff like that. But even then, you can do tactics and intelligence. So, or unless you're like, somebody who specifically you're playing as somebody who specifically like a deals with people, like a politician or something, then yeah, you're gonna want charisma. But there's not a lot it does. So, other than skills. So we have this special thing from another thing where for every positive point your charisma modifier is, you can affect a person. And by affect a person, I mean you can move somebody's disposition up or down by, I believe, as many points as you have technically, as long as it's not above helpful or something like that. Basically, it lets you automatically start a certain number of times per day equal to your charisma modifier, the basically adjust people's disposition towards you. I was hoping that we could do it here and make it go even higher, but -1. But I mean, just the fact that I was like, oh hey, there's that neat thing I can do, means, at least to me, that it's actually worthy. Because I mean, like, had I had that, I would have been happy. I considered using it, realized I didn't have it. Had I had it, I'd be like, oh yeah, there's actually a cool reason that my charisma's not negative, you know? So, but yeah, I find that like just a neat little thing that doesn't change too much, but at least makes charisma a little bit better, especially when, all the other stats have a lot more direct impact. Like I said, even without that, charisma's important because dealing with people, but, just a little bit higher. Oh yeah, and if you see the education there, that's another score that we have. It's always 2 less than intelligence, unless you go to school, get a degree. You can make it go up. It basically just is something that you can add to some roles, specifically like knowledge roles and all that. There are certain few roles that you can add your education modifier to. And also, there's, an, there's another stat. It's hidden down here. Social. Specifically social standing. Status in society. It is a useless stat. It's not actually a useless stat. It really only comes into play when dealing with nobility. You know, it's a stat that I use. It's not a stat the average citizen uses. The average citizen has a 10 in it. The starting number in it is, in fact, 10. You don't need to put points in that, by the way. You also don't need to put points in education when you're point buying, because education is always your int -2, and then you don't put points in it, you go to school if you want to increase it. Social standing, you don't put points into it, you increase it via, well, your status. And I believe it goes from like, social status is a bit weird. Education and social status are a bit weird. I mean, since we're here, might as well. Yeah, well, social status goes up to 32. It goes from 0 to 32. You probably won't have 0 social status unless you're wild. 1 is like a felon. 3 is like a criminal, like once you get to 10, that's just a standard galactic citizen. Then all the way up to 32, which is a major nation leader. The reason it goes that way, by the way, is it's actually very specific. Not only are there modifiers, same as with any other stat, so 10s plus 0, 12s plus 1, but also the modifier equates to your social status rank, which has other effects, but that's not important. We're not running a nation here today. But there is also education. Education looks like any normal stat. Can I even find it? It might not even be in this book. We can only type in the search bar and hope. Nope, it is listed. Very good. Education technically goes from like 0 to 30. Every other stat technically goes up indefinitely. Like, technically. Usually from like 1 to infinity. technically speaking. But like, I mean, the numbers get high when you deal with eldritch deities and other deities, Like, hell, the numbers get high when you deal with Imperial Lords. Imperial Lords walking around with 40s in their stats. But I mean, like, technically, your average person, I say your average person, I mean, like, you know, you go, let's say you're lucky. You're very lucky. You were born with high dexterity. All your life, you train dexterity. So let's say you have 18 in dexterity, okay? You put all of your upgrades into dexterity. That's an additional 5 at level 20. So 23, okay? Now get augmented muscles, which is plus 6. Gets it to 29. Then find some way to get that extra 1. And you're at 30, you know? I mean, like naturally. I'm talking about naturally. And we count augmented reflexes and all that as natural. Because I mean, like, if we're talking strength score, you put on a set of powered armor, that's like a heavy power armor. That's like what, plus 16 to your stat? Because to your strength, that is, because heavy powered armor, we don't count that. Let's say naturally, and we do count cybernetic augmentation as natural. There are robotic beings out there and people who upload their brains. We still count them as technically natural because, they're people. I mean, they are people, but like, it really depends on your definition of natural. We live in a society in which you can upload your brain into a computer. Like, I mean, swap your bodies. Like, define natural. Like, do you mean purely biological? Sure, let's go grab some Enster biotech, like, wow, now it's biological. Or, I mean, still like an augment, but it's biological. I mean, so, why not count robotic augmentation? What's the difference? Why we wouldn't count powered armor, by the way, is because it's something you put on. So that's not natural. I mean, like if you're putting it on, then again, I mean, using terminology, you could say you're putting on a different body, I suppose, but it's different, like your consciousness is in that body. It's not in the power armor, except, like locational. You get my point, okay? You definitely get my point, hopefully. So, yeah, you can get your stats to like 30 relatively easily. It only cost you 20 levels and a few million credits to get your stats to 30. Not all of them, of course. Technically, you could get like 1 to 30 and the rest to 25 also, assuming you had all 18s. You can also get augmented in other, like, anyway, let's not get into builds here. It's not what we're here for. Point being, it's not hard per se to get to like that in stats if you are rich. Then again, if you're rich, upload your brain and then just be immortal. Like, I mean, relatively, of course, you can get hit by a virus or something, but that's what backups are for. That's what enclosed space stations are for. I mean, just take average precautions. I say average. Okay, for your average citizen, these aren't average precautions. We're talking about things that cost millions and billions of credits. But as an Imperial Lord, of course, several backup sites with my consciousness stored out there just in case, like standard precautions for people who have copious amounts of space money and run planets, you know? Yeah, well. So, yes, their disposition towards us is higher. We will approach them and greet them. We have determined that they will think Juliana Aldous is pretty cool. Not for long, as we're about to tell them to throw the race or else. But for the moment being, somebody, one person, for the moment being, in the entire galaxy, thinks Juliana Aldous is cool. And Juliana Aldous is going to ruin that. But let her be happy for this one moment. Here we are. So she will approach the person and greet them. The race car driver will look over and greet you on all this back and say, "You don't seem like you are from around here." Juliana Aldous will not lie. Juliana Aldous will, in fact, tell them that she is a mercenary, a space mercenary. Of course, like, she's not going to tell the truth either. She's not going to walk up to this race car driver who works in this city and be like, "Oh, yes, I'm a mercenary who works for the opposing faction in the war, and I'm currently behind enemy lines in your territory on a mission to capture a government official from the government that's supporting the government that you're in because I'm their enemy." She's not going to do that. But she's going to tell them that she's a mercenary, you know? there are certain there's certain information that shouldn't be shared. So, yeah, she'll say that she's a mercenary, and shit, this is where it gets complex. This is where it really gets complex. Does she tell the truth? Not about all that, about why she's here. Does she tell him right here, right now? No, no, not here on the floor. That'd be a terrible idea. She'll say that she's a mercenary. She'll say she has some business to deal with him. Not say deal with. I mean, given her -1 in charisma, maybe, but she'll say, "I wanted to talk with you about a business proposal." Let's see. Time to roll more dice. Sorry, looking for the dice roller. I really should organize my setup. Unfortunately, I do have to look for these things. It's not as easy as just clicking a thing and bringing it up. I wish it was. I don't know how to make it so. I'm not the one who's good with technology. Well, the technology we use for this, we do use a interdimensional broadcasting device. It's a bit beyond my capabilities. I mean, I could tell you how it works to a degree, but actually getting it to do what I want, beyond my capabilities. At least for now. Um, what are we rolling? We're rolling something. I mean, I know we're rolling to see whether they'll go with us, but what stat is that going to be? Basically telling them that we have a deal we want to make a business proposal that we want to talk about in private. I mean, like, it doesn't have to be in some shady place or anything. Just like if he has an office, just somewhere that's not the factory floor. It's not really a factory, but you know, I mean, that's not entirely shady. Let's be honest. You don't do business dealings in the open, but also, let's see. Here's the sheet. Um, Probably don't want to be like, hey, right in front of the crowds of fans and people, hey, I'm gonna need you to throw the race. I'm sure that would go down real well. Hey, you agreed to that, right? You agreed to throw the race? Just right in front of everyone. I mean, we could pull it off. Like, don't get me wrong. We would lose the mission. We would lose the mission. But we could get him to throw the race right in front of all these people. I mean, we'd lose the mission because they wouldn't let him race. And then officers would show up. And then, like, the person who's hiring us would be like, you've ruined it. You ruined it all. But, like, we have a advanced war pick and motive. So, we could get them to throw the race, but that we're going about this in a civil manner. We are a upstanding mercenary with no need to go off the rails. We're not chaotic evil. We don't even have alignment in Galactic Requiem. Like, other than magical entities. Magical entities sometimes have, like, alignment. If they're, like, magical entities. Any non-magical entity doesn't have alignment. It's just a neutral thing that has its own world views, You can't cast protection from evil against an Imperial Lord. It won't work. I assure you, it won't work. Even if you consider us evil, I'm not saying that we're not evil per se. I mean, the galaxy views us as such, but we're not magical entities. And being a caster doesn't make you a magical entity. I mean, like an actually magical entity, like a demon. Like being, ooh, I do magic. No, you're still not a magical entity. Is a ghost a magical entity? Yeah, sort of. It gets complex. Really, don't ask questions. Actually, do ask questions. Like I said, always feel free to ask questions, but don't ask questions. Is a ghost? Does a ghost have alignment? I don't I don't want to answer that. I'd have to think about that honestly. Look, ghosts are rare, but let's say, I'm sorry, tangent. Let's say we had a ghost. A ghost is just an undead person, right? So, does a ghost have an alignment because it is a purely magical entity? However, it is a person, and people don't have alignment. So, does a ghost have alignment? Depends. Was the ghost made using necromancy? If yes, then yes, the ghost has an evil alignment. That doesn't mean the ghost is evil. That doesn't mean the ghost has to act in an evil way. When I say evil, I do just mean negative energy, and therefore protection from evil works against a necromantically raised ghost. Doesn't mean the ghost has to act evil. Doesn't mean the ghost actually is evil. Just means protection from evil works against the ghost because it was raised using necromancy. And no, necromancy isn't evil per se. It's just negative energy, so it's technically works against protection from evil. Which is real weird because we get into the point in which evil is actually an energy type. Like it's its own energy type, but even then it's different than negative energy. But look, we could go on for like look, I'm genuine when I say we could go on forever talking about just every aspect of Galactic Requiem. Forever. Which is why we have lore videos. Or will. And why we have World Building Wednesday. But point being, um, yeah. We're rolling. We're trying to convince them of something. So we're technically rolling a impress check, which is -1. Let's ask the bot, because this is something the GM would decide normally. And as this is something the GM would decide, we ask the bot, is this character receptive to dealings and all that? 5 and 6 is 11. That is yes. That is a barely yes. That's specifically, I believe that's yes, but. So yes, but not entirely. Just double checking. Yeah, 11 plus is success. 11 to 13 is yes, but. Okay. So they are receptive. Now, will they go with us right now? Our roll, 18. -1, plus, and if you're wondering where we're getting plus from, remember, we increased their disposition towards us by 2. That's not a +2, by the way. That is a plus. It might just be a +2. But I want to make sure, getting things right and all that. That would be a +2, actually. Because from neutral to intrigued, which is +1, intrigued to friendly, which is +2. What I was thinking of is friendly to supportive is then a +4. So it's not by 1. But it is 2 this time. So +2. So 19 versus 18. And what's their stat? I need to open the thing. Okay? That is not an absolute failure, but it's not an absolute success. They state that they will meet with us after the allotted time here. They gotta do some stuff and meet with some people, but then they will meet with us. And we're not in a rush, so we'll accept that. Hmm. So, after their meeting, well, their time talking to people, you will. We'll just read our book. I'm very curious. This is absolutely useless information. But I want to know. Let's say we wait about a half an hour. Um, half an hour, 30 minutes. It's about 30 pages. So we're not done with our book. Okay. If you didn't know, Yelena Aldous likes reading physical books. Could she download a book into her brain and just know the book? Yes. Does she? No. In fact, so far, every time she's visited an airport, she's bought a book. She's only visited an airport like twice, but still, every time, book. And yes, there are airports, there are also spaceports and all that. There's no teleportation. I mean, in Galactic Requiem, there is teleportation. It's just more technologically advanced than the majority of the galaxy. You know, like we're not we're not going on that tangent. We're not going on that tangent. But needless to say, there are certain technologies unlocked at certain technological levels. Teleportation is above the galactic standard of tech level 16. Therefore, it's not something you see on most worlds. Nations can, however, push their science in rare projects by usually up to 2 tiers. So some of the more advanced nations have teleportation in science facilities. You know? So you do have science facilities with teleportation on occasion. Or, you know, government buildings that are like, we need a backup teleporter to get our people out. It happens. They exist. It's just not something you find used often, especially because each tier, we're getting into it. Each tier of teleportation, there are different tiers per tech level. There's, device to device, big device to big device. There's big device to anywhere. There's anywhere to anywhere, etc. There's different varieties. Sometimes you need 2 platforms. Sometimes you don't. It really depends on your technology. So, after the half an hour of reading a book, you and Aldous will go to the office of this individual and meet with them. Upon meeting with them in their office, they will ask you and Aldous what this business proposal is, and you and Aldous will sigh slightly and say, it's unfortunate. Um, so she'll be honest. She'll be honest. Yeah, she'll say it's unfortunate, but as I said, I'm a mercenary, and I'm currently on a contract. You see, I've been hired to ensure that you lose the race. At a certain point in the race, for the benefit of everyone. I'm sure that this quick question for the bot. Will the person interrupt or will they hear us out? Question is, will they let us finish? Again, we'll give a +2 towards yes. 12. So yes, but they'll interject. They'll be like, lose the race? What do you mean? Like, there's some sort of joke? You know, else will say, no, 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 no joke. I'm being paid quite a lot. Quickly looks at amount we're getting paid. Yeah, let's let's go with quite a lot. Sure, that's a number. Oh, quite a lot. $1,000. No, getting paid an amount. $1,000. Uh, um, getting paid to ensure that you lose the race. Now that Elon all this thinks about it, Elon is sitting here considering what she signed up for. It's like, yeah, I guess it's quick cash. This is what she's thinking to herself. I guess it's quick cash. But really, $1,000? Actually, more so like, no, it is on the higher end because this is a somewhat famous, but $1,000? Like, come on. I'm pretty sure the person who's hiring us to do this is probably making bank. Well, would make bank from this. We're talking probably hundreds of thousands. They're probably betting on the race, and we could bet on the race. Slowly, thoughts going through their head. Like, what? We can't offer this person a cut. And, like, I mean, of what we're gonna make, we're not gonna make a lot. Like, I'm sure if they wanted to throw the race for money, they would have done that before. I mean, they're getting paid as a somewhat famous race car driver. We've putting two and two together about how stupid this is. Look, the boss wants it done. The boss is paying me $1,000. You know, this won't say this. This is still in thinking. Boss wants this done. Boss is paying me $1,000. Sure, sure. I suppose we don't really care whether we succeed or not. I mean, let's. Do we care? Specifically about reputation. Do we care about reputation? Juliana Aldous, character-wise, only cares about reputation as far as it can be used to get her revenge. We must remember that Juliana Aldous does mercenary work to get money and, and opportunities to get revenge against the government that she was a part of. Not for other reasons like reputation and fame. And now, keep getting contracts is nice, but let's be honest, who are we dealing with? Some nobody? I say that, but I mean, I'm sure they're rich or something. They're probably going to make a lot of money on this race. But I mean, let's think. On a galactic scale, who are they? Nobody. We could kill them if they dislike our work. I mean, why? I mean, we don't have to kill them, but like, you know, like if they really disapprove and are like, "Oh, ruin your reputation over this." I mean, sure, we're literally they're in a city that's from the enemy nation. There's a significant chance this entire place gets hit by fucking nukes. Like, so yeah. I mean, it's not good making enemies, but we'll try. We'll try. So yeah, Ulanos will basically say, "I'm being paid to ensure that you lose at a certain time in this race, that you don't succeed." And I thought perhaps we can go about this in a friendly and civilized manner, as opposed to as opposed to wanton threats or violence or I'm thinking. I'm thinking not good thoughts. I'm thinking bad thoughts. What if, what if we change our mind? What if, what if this person wins the race? I mean, that'd be bad for us. We'd lose our 1,000 space bucks. What's 1,000 space bucks? What's 1,000 space bucks? I mean, it's like $1,000 equivalent, but like we're rigging a race for 1,000 bucks. Who we're in heavy combat armor. This armor costs like 55,000 credits. Like, so yeah, I thought I'd do something different. This is what she'll say to him. I thought I'd do something different and just ask you to throw the race as opposed to the whole cliched threats, threats to people you know, threats of violence, that kind of thing, thought we'd instead just talk it out. Just ask. Something I'm sure that's, I mean, I suppose it's done. It's not like it's not a thing that's done, but, let's see what this person is thinking. Probably nothing good. Look, Juliana Aldous is good at killing, not, I mean, and even that's debatable, but not intimidating targets. Hell, I don't even think we're trying to intimidate the target. They really shouldn't have hired Juliana Aldous for this. I mean, the idea of betraying them indeed would have crossed Juliana Aldous' mind. Like, I don't know, maybe I could just just tell this person, you know, I've changed my mind. Worst mercenary for the job. Then again, like, also, the only reason we need to worry about crime in this city is just that we don't get known that we're here because we work for an opposing government. Like, if we commit space crime, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Like, what? We're going to leave, and this entire country that we're in is at war with the country we're working with. Like, who cares? Also, we're not even from this planet. Sure, we don't have a ship, but we can get a ship legally or illegally. Not like purchase. I mean, like a ticket on one. Like theoretically, we could purchase one, but money, you know. Hmm. Um. So yes, this person's disposition towards us. What are they thinking? Well, their disposition's likely dropping fast like a rock. Let's roll a check. First is us. Another impress. 9. Them. 12. We do not win that one. Um, so yes, our disposition with them is dropping fast as they bring up how they very much can't just throw a race, and it's sort of ridiculous that we would wander in here and ask them to throw a race. Like that is not only illegal and immoral, but they're a race car driver. It's what they do. They can't just throw a race. They're rivals in this race. In addition to that, like, no. In fact, maybe leave now. Um, well, you learn all this being a mercenary in heavy combat armor with an assault rifle and a war pick. Mm. The real question is, how do we want to go about this? Do we actually want to betray our boss? They're paying us $1,000. $1,000. Now, whether you interpret that as a lot or a little for a space mercenary, it's actually very little for a space mercenary. I mean, sort of. It's not like it's a very little, but like I said, it's dollars equivalent. So, like, it's not a small amount, but given the fact that we get paid like 5 to 10,000 for missions usually, usually more actually. We take risky contracts, but um, let's see. I mean, once more, one must consider scale. As I sit here, quite easily being able to make 10 trillion galactic standard credits from running a nation. Empire management. When you have to buy fleets that cost billions upon billions of credits. Then again, as an Imperial Lord, I do have like 3-star systems, so. But that's where loyalty comes into play. If you take credits out of the bank for yourself, loyalty drops. And then it makes it harder to make a loyalty check. And then your people rebel. And then you need to send in forces to suppress the rebellion. And that costs money, sort of. Nation management. Um, like I said, we'll do that someday. My own nation, even. Um, so yeah, he asks us to leave. What are our thoughts? Mm, the only person in the galaxy who at least for a moment thought Yelena Aldous was cool. Mm, mm, look, this once, this once, let's channel our violence towards the system. I mean, Yelena Aldous hates the people she's working for reasons. So, I mean, there are reasons more so than just the word reasons, trust me. But um, it's similar circumstances. I mean, like some outside party trying to. Mm, Juliana Aldous will sigh and say, yeah, Juliana Aldous will sigh and say, look, somebody was going to get hired to do this. Somebody was going to get hired to do this. And hell, what are they paying me? 1,000 credits. She'll say that out loud. And then she'll say, yeah, they would have hired somebody else to do this, somebody else who would have done the other methods. I'll tell you what. Why don't why don't you win this race? This time, I mean, what's a contract? Win this race, or do your best. I don't care if you win, or I sort of want you to win. Not from any you have to win sort of perspective, but I mean, I'll deal with anything that happens. Alternatively, I'm sorry for even suggesting such a thing. Like I said, I actually didn't know who you were before this. I was just paid to solve the problem. You know, contracts come up. Person, my contact gives me the contracts. But this time, win it. I mean, it's 1,000 credits. I'll tell you what, I'll put 1,000 credits on you winning. And if any more mercenaries or hired thugs show up, I'll handle it, I suppose. Just focus on winning. Yolanda Aldous will think to herself how much of a mistake she's made here. She's already angered this person. It's not likely that they're going to all of a sudden think she's cool again. But, I mean, I don't know. If it were if it were me, I'd make sure that the contract got done. But Yelena Aldous, with her background, very much. I mean, she's not. I mean, she's not violent, but she's not violent. But she's not a person who seeks violence for the sake of it. Usually. So, yeah, threaten some poor race car driver who thought she was cool, or some person trying to benefit on betting on this race who's hiring thugs to intimidate the race car driver. Yulana Aldous is the kind of person who is going to side with the race car driver. She'll sigh and stand up from a chair and say, yeah, look, like I said, I'm sorry about that. They hired me, and look, I'll make sure they don't mess with you. I'll make sure they don't do anything. And, yeah, she will, once she'll head towards the door and she'll apologize and say, sorry about the whole thing, I guess. Really, really leaning on that 8 charisma. Surprised it's not 3. God damn. Really surprised it ain't 3 charisma. And yeah, she'll she'll once more say, I do hope you win. And she'll leave the room. Damn, the one person. Okay, so She will. I mean, I suppose we're out of time this time. Next time, I suppose we'll actually get into encounters. We'll see if any thugs show up and try and stop the race. Or, threaten him. Or anything like that. I mean, we're supposed to call the boss. If we don't, things are going to get hectic. What are we going to do, though? Call him and tell him we've decided not to? We have a lot to think about for next time. I mean, next stream is probably going to be either News Tuesday or World Building Wednesday. And then after that, we'll get back to this. And, yeah. However, let's see. Yeah, no, that's our next, that's what we'll do next time. Either News Tuesday, World Building Wednesday. One of those two. I mean, we're going to do both, but we might have News Tuesday. We will have World Building Wednesday, and then we'll get to this. And we'll see what happens in this. Let's award our experience. Which is like 12 experience. Actually 11, because it's not a hard encounter. It's actually a rather easy encounter. Technically speaking, if we're not terrible. But we are, so. Okay. Oh, in other news, slight other news, I think, I think it's going to be streamed this Saturday or Sunday. This Saturday or Sunday, I forget which one. I am going to send one of my conscripts to a Armor 3 SOG game. I believe it is being streamed by Merlin Bishop. We're doing a big SOG campaign in Armor 3 with a bunch of other VTubers and other people. So, yeah, it's going to be the second episode of that where I'm sending one of my conscripts to go and do Nom stuff. So, that will be this Saturday or Sunday on Merlin Bishop's stream, I believe, if I'm not getting the details wrong. So, yeah, that's one of the things we will be doing. Assuming I can find the buttons here. Thank you all for stopping by. As always, I've been your host, the Imperial Lord, Casimir Basilius. I hope you have had a wonderful day. And if you're not having a wonderful day, I hope you do have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time.